Live from the Scripps Studios, this is 10 News.
Lots of drama unfolding in the sentencing phase for a man who used a sledgehammer to kill a Fallbrook family and then bury them in the desert 10 years ago. Good evening, I'm Lindsay Pena.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Charles Merritt is facing the death penalty or life in prison. And our 10 News reporter Matt Boone is joining us from San Bernardino, where the court is still deliberating tonight. Matt.
Steve, after 10 years, this was all supposed to come to an end today. But the defense came with some last-minute tactics to try and delay these proceedings, including asking the judge for a new trial, all while family and friends of the McStays sat there in silence.
I want to make a couple comments about...
The hearing began with Charles Merritt's attorney, Rajan Moline, making a motion to introduce what he called new evidence about cell phone towers. Cell phone data had been key evidence to prosecutors who used it to show Merritt had been near the desert gravesite in early February of 2010 when the McStay family had gone missing from their Fallbrook home. The judge did not appear to be moved by the testimony, but let it proceed. Listening to his lawyer, Merritt sat looking anxious and frustrated. After the lunch break, a shocking development. Moline announced he'd been fired by Merritt as his attorney.
I don't feel in good conscience based on what I've been told that I could go forward, and that's where we're at.
The judge announced a recess, but when they came back, he denied Merritt's request to fire his attorney, so the hearing continued. The prosecution eventually rebutted the defense's claim that there was new evidence, but the judge allowed another witness to take the stand for the defense, one of Merritt's former attorneys, who'd left the case last fall. After listening to both sides, the judge denied the motions. In June, the jury convicted Merritt of murdering Joseph McStay, his wife Summer, 4-year-old Gianni, and 3-year-old Joseph Jr. Merritt had done work for Joseph McStay's business, making home and garden water features. Prosecutors say Merritt owed McStay money and that he became angry after McStay began cutting him out of the business. The motive for the murders, they argued, was greed.
So right now, the judge is still reviewing some of the evidence in this case and what the defense had brought up. We don't know yet exactly what this sentence is going to be. He's going to be deciding between just two options, though. One will be life without the possibility of parole, as well as the death penalty. So we'll have to see what the outcome of that is coming up. Reporting live in San Bernardino, Matt Boone, 10 News.
Thank you, Matt. And to follow any developments in this case, you can download our free mobile app. Just go to the App Store and search 10 News.
We have some breaking news from Lake Tahoe, where an avalanche at a ski resort killed one person and seriously injured another. This happened just one day after a storm dumped large amounts of snow in that area. The avalanche hit some of the steepest terrain at the Alpine Meadows Ski Resort, where a series of expert runs snaked through the trees and dropped down narrow chutes.
The information we have that the area they were in was not a prohibited area that they could not ski in, but it is definitely an advanced area for skiers.
The sheriff's department said search and rescue crews scoured the rest of the mountain with dogs after the avalanche. They don't believe there are any more victims.
New developments in President Trump's impeachment trial now. Today, the president named additional members to his legal team fighting impeachment charges. The historic trial gets underway on Tuesday. ABC's Serena Marshall is in Washington with a look at what we can expect.
With his impeachment trial looming, President Trump lamenting to the LSU Tigers national championship team about his fate.
We got a good one now, even though they're trying to impeach the son of a. Can you believe that?
Well, he's already been impeached. His removal from office up to the Senate, where his trial kicks off on Tuesday. It's only the third time in American history the senators...
Will all senators now stand or remain standing and raise their right hand?
...have been sworn in as jurors, responsible for reviewing the evidence and considering the charges that President Trump abused his office and obstructed Congress. The president firming up his legal team, led by White House lawyer Pat Cipollone and private counsel Jay Sekulow. And newly added to the team, Ken Starr, the former special prosecutor in the Clinton impeachment, and Alan Dershowitz, who says he's been asked to present the constitutional argument against impeachment and removal. One person not included, however, personal lawyer Rudy Giuliani, who told ABC News it's excellent because he's a potential witness, so he will be warming up to testify. He could be called amid the new allegations from Lev Parnas, an indicted associate of Giuliani's, who said the president knew all about the pressure campaign on Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden.
It was all about 2020 to make sure he had another 4 years.
And a new report from a nonpartisan government watchdog says the White House did break the law by withholding military aid to Ukraine, writing, "Faithful execution of the law does not permit the president to substitute his own policy priorities for those that Congress has enacted into law." The White House disagreeing with that conclusion.
The trial kicks off in earnest on Tuesday when they gavel back in at 1 p.m. The majority leader is expected to introduce a resolution that will outline the rules governing the first phase of the trial. The minority leader is expected to introduce one to compel witnesses and documents. Serena Marshall, ABC News, Washington.
The Supreme Court is about to hear a pair of cases that could change how presidents are elected. The cases involve the so-called faithless electors during the 2016 presidential election. The justices will rule on whether those electors can vote for any candidate they like or if they have to follow the popular vote. Currently, 32 states require electors to follow the popular vote in their state. The justices will begin hearing arguments in April.
Deputies are searching for a driver who hit and killed an 81-year-old woman in San Marcos. Investigators say that she was on Descanso Avenue near Rancho Santa Fe Road. That's when a driver hit her and then just took off. They say she was hit around 2 o'clock this morning, and when deputies arrived, they tried to help the woman, but she died right there at the scene. Not much is known about the driver except that the person was driving a black-colored car.
Police now know the identity of a man found bleeding behind the wheel of a car in Southcrest. He's identified as 20-year-old Ismail Abubad from Erie, Pennsylvania. Police found his body near 41st Street and Boston Avenue on Wednesday. Investigators are calling his death a homicide. Witnesses say 3 teens were seen running from that car. Anyone with information is asked to call police.
All right now, more than 6,000 sailors left Naval Base Coronado today for a 7-month deployment to the Indo-Pacific. As our 10 News reporter Rena Nakano explains, no matter how many deployments these Navy families go through, the goodbyes, they never get easy.
Good evening. Leaving San Diego and your family is never an easy task, but knowing that the family is in good hands makes all the difference. Its colossal presence is intimidating, impressive, indisputable.
We comprise the most mobile, the most capable, and the most lethal fighting force on the entire planet.
But the strength of the Theodore Roosevelt isn't in the hardware. It's of the 6,000 sailors who will call it home for the next 7 months. From newbies
it's my first deployment
to veterans.
This one is fine.
Friday is their farewell to the families.
Already I've been crying like all day.
Stephanie Hastings is saying goodbye to her husband Christopher for the first time. Emotions overcome her, even though her toddlers don't understand.
He doesn't really know what's going on. He said he wants to go to Target today. He doesn't want to come here.
But longtime military wife Fama Nyasi has no tears. She and her 2 daughters are sending off their father Usman for the 5th time.
Their daddy is not around, but mommy's here. I will take care of everything.
You got a strong mom. Yeah. For the next 7 months, these sailors leave behind their loved ones. They'll travel to the Indo-Pacific region to provide maritime security and regional safety. For Nyasi, it's comforting to know his wife's got his back at home.
Oh, I can't thank her enough, man. She's the rock of the family. I can't thank her enough.
Those left behind say their strength comes from their love for their spouse and love for their country.
That I tell him all the time, I'm really proud. I'm so proud of him. He's the hero.
Rena Nakano, 10 News.
Several U.S. service members were injured during last week's Iranian missile attack at an air base in Iraq. The U.S.-led military coalition fighting ISIS in Iraq and Syria shared that detail late last night. They say the American soldiers were treated for concussions, while others are still being assessed. U.S. military officials say 11 service members were hurt. This revelation comes after the president and military leaders initially said no one was injured.
No Americans were harmed in last night's attack by the Iranian regime.
The 11 service members have been evacuated to medical facilities in Germany and Kuwait because of worsening symptoms.
4 teachers in Los Angeles have filed a suit against Delta Airlines just days after a jet dumped fuel over their school. Delta Flight 89 was heading to Shanghai Tuesday when it was forced to make an emergency landing at LAX. The pilot dumped fuel to make the aircraft lighter, but it ended up soaking children and teachers at Park Avenue Elementary.
Their severe emotional distress includes the reasonable fear that the exposure to and ingestion of jet fuel might produce serious health consequences in the future.
The LA Fire Department says they treated at least 60 people for skin irritation and breathing problems. Delta Airlines has not commented on that lawsuit.
On the heels of what would have been Dr. Martin Luther King's 91st birthday, hundreds gathered this morning to celebrate his life and his legacy.
10 News reporter Nate Holmes was there for the Human Dignity Award breakfast.
Organizers hoped each person left this morning feeling inspired to help someone else or do something good. Over 1,700 people gathered here this morning to honor the life of Dr. Martin Luther King.
The YMCA of San Diego County welcomes you.
By 6 a.m., hundreds flocked to the Town and Country Hotel to pay tribute to the civil rights icon.
Shows that his legacy and his dream is still alive.
Then when you look at generations later, they understand it, they hear it, but this is bigger than a one-day celebration, a one-day remembrance.
It's like a baton being passed to us because he's made so many strides in society for us, and it's just our responsibility now to continue in his footsteps.
One loud round of applause. Students were honored after writing some outstanding work.
That we award in 2020.
This year's Human Dignity Award recipient, Miss D. Sanford.
You don't do it for honor, but when somebody remembers and acknowledges your work, it's really it's a humbling experience.
Sanford started her own telecommunications business in 1994, was an adjunct professor for colleges, and even created public access TV and radio stations. She says she remembers when Dr. King's life was taken.
I knew about him when I was a young woman. My father was part of the civil rights movement, and he was our king.
This morning, so many share what Dr. King means to them.
And it means never backing down. And it's great to see so many San Diegans here today who believe in Dr. Martin Luther King and his message.
Our very own Virginia Child was this morning's MC. So many others came out to celebrate. It was a great event to honor Dr. Martin Luther King. In Mission Valley, Nate Holmes, 10 News.